Alright, this is part 2 then, or number 2. We're going to be looking at how you create your basic layer for your Phase 1 habitat survey. So we're going to start off with our broad habitats. So these are things like A111, which is broadleaf semi-natural, or A112, which is broadleaf plantation. Those sorts of large habitats that cover big areas. Now, if you think back to our first lesson, we looked at what different objects are. Now, overall, each layer can have one kind of vector in it. It can either be a polygon, a line, or a point. And each of those layers has a number of different objects in them. In terms of our Phase 1 habitat survey, it would be each little habitat area would be a separate object. Now, if we just look here, I'm in Excel obviously here, and I'm just representing how an attribute table looks and how a GIS layer would appear if you got it into Excel here. So inside QGIS and hidden from view would be a column which would contain all the information about how big that polygon is, where it is, and all those sorts of things. Now, that information is hidden. You never get to see it. All you get to do is put it in by clicking the points around the edges. So it would be something called, it would be called geometry, but you wouldn't be able to see it. So that would contain all the information like how big your polygon is, what shape it is, all those sorts of things. But it's hidden, so let's hide that. Gone, hidden. So the other things are the bits that you have control over. And it's all the different things that you want to record about each polygon that you put in. Now, this takes the form of a table, as I've shown here, called the attribute table. In QGIS it looks slightly different, but the basic principles are the same. You've got columns, which are the ones going down, and rows, which are the ones going along. Each row, so this is a row, the one going along here, each row is a separate object. So in QGIS it would be one polygon, would be one object. So this one here would be one polygon. This one would be another polygon, another polygon, another polygon. Each of those polygons would be one of your habitats. So these columns, the ones that go vertically, are going to be common for each polygon. So they're going to record things that are the same sort of thing in each polygon that you put in. So to start off with, the first thing we do obviously want to record about each polygon would be what's the Phase 1 class for that polygon. So is it broadleaf coniferous, amenity, pond, etc., etc. And all those are represented by the Phase 1 class, like A111 or J2 or something like that. That's not a one. Anyway, that's common to all of the different polygons, the Phase 1 class. So one of the things we want to record is something like Phase 1 class. And then when we create each new object, remember each object is a row. So this would be our first object here. When we put it in, we'd put in what's its Phase 1 class. So let's say it's broadleaf semi-natural, which would be a 1.1.1. So that is our first object. QGIS automatically would put in the geometry that's hidden from view. We don't ever see that. All we see is the map. And it's recorded what the Phase 1 class is. There's other things that we could record that would be common to every single polygon. So if we were recording something like the dominant species, we could have a column here for that. So dom species, and there you could record what things did you find there. That's not how you do it. It's a small art, and it's Rob. Another column there. I mean, we could record anything really. Who did the survey? Surveyor. I did. Ooh, interesting symbol there at the end. So this would be our first polygon that we just put in, and then it would go down as we added more and more polygons. Semi-natural, coniferous, a 1.2.1. What do we find there? Monkeys. I don't know. Who did that? You did. Obviously you'd put who the surveyor actually is. Okay, fine. David Kaplan. fine, I did that one too. I found monkeys. I did, honest. So this is how our attribute table would look. Now, it looks slightly different in QGIS because we're not putting them in like we are on this table here. And you'll see in a minute. But the bit that you need to look at and think about is what you're going to have for each of these columns. So what's common to each polygon that you put in. So the phase 1 class, that's going to be common to every single polygon. Each one has a class. They're all different, but each one has a class of some sort. So let's go into QGIS now. This is following on from our previous video. This is the Google satellite. So what we want to do, we want to make a new polygon layer. Now there's two ways of doing this. You can go up here, layer, create layer, new shapefile layer, but it's slightly quicker if you just go down here and click on this little arrow thingy here and go new shapefile layer. That's the same thing. It does exactly the same as going here, layer, create layer, new shapefile layer. They're exactly the same. So we're in here. What's the first thing we need to do? Well, the first thing is choose what kind of vector it's going to be. If you remember, we've got points, lines, polygons. What did we want for our broad habitats? Polygons. Happy days. So next bit up is the coordinate system. So is it something like latitude and longitude, which you find in your on your GPS, or is it going to be British National Grid? Generally, if you're working in the UK, stick to British National Grid. So mine is automatically set to British National Grid, but if it's not, click on the little hat here, and now you can search here, British National Grid. Interesting way of speaking. And there it is, first one on the list, British National Grid. Okay. So that's set, polygons, British National Grid. Now, new field. This is what I was talking about before with our table here. The new field is the title of each one of these columns here. So the ones I've got phase 1 class, dominant species, surveyor, whatever it is you're recording. That's what you'd put for your new field. So at the minute I've got one called ID, which I haven't got on my table here, so I'm just going to put one in, ID. That would be one of the ones that's automatically in. And each one you'd put a number down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So we want to add some different ones. ID is a little bit pointless, I find, so I'm going to take that one out. So I'm just going to click on it and go remove. So at the minute my table looks like this. I got no fields in it. Now if I was making some polygons, that would be pointless because there would be no way of distinguishing between each polygon. So we need a field of some sort. We need some sort of identifying factor, and ours is going to be phase 1 class, because we want somewhere to record what the phase 1 class for each habitat is. So let's have it in here, phase 1 class. Now you may see I've run into a bit of a problem here. It's saying phase 1 class. That's because in the name of the field you can only have a certain number of letters. Let's see how many that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 letters you're limited to. So you can either be happy with phase 1 class or you can use a different one. I'm going to stick to phase 1 class. I know what it means, it's reasonably obvious. Stick to phase 1 class. Type. Now, this is where you choose what kind of information is going to be in there. Is it going to be text? So is it going to have letters in, a whole number, decimal number, or a date? You can't mix and match what you've got in each one, apart from for text. Text, you can have pretty much anything in there. Any character that you can press on the keyboard, you can put in that box. So, unless it's purposefully something that's going to be numbers, like area, or if you're measuring like trees or something, it'd be the height. Anything where you're going to mix numbers and letters, stick it to text. So our phase 1 class, we've got stuff like a 1.1.2. That's got a letter in, it's got dots in. That would be set to text. I'm going to leave length to 80. If you've got more than 80 characters, so more than 80 letters in the word, you probably want to just add some more. I think maximum is about 200, 250. 80 is fine. 80 is more than enough. So add to fields list. So we've added this one. So now this is how our field's going to look. Our table's going to look. We've got our one column in our table. To be fair, that's all we need for this really. We can add some other ones if we really wanted to, but we didn't really survey for anything else, so I'm going to stick to my one. Happy? Okay. Now this is where you want to save it somewhere. I'm going to stick it on my USB stick. Where am I going to put it? Work? Why not? Slow USB stick today. Hello. Make a new folder just for this. Wow. Today would be nice. Thank you. Phase 1 Margam. Always make nice little folders for each thing, just so it doesn't get all messed up. So I've got here my phase 1 habitat survey. Everything's sort of nested into other folders, just to make it a bit neater and easier to find. Phase 1 Margam, and then this layer. Oh, I can't see it. This layer was polygons, phase 1 habitat polygons. So give it a name that relates to what it is. So polygons phase 1. Happy. Okay. Save. So at the top of our layer panel here, we've got our new layer that we've just added, polygons phase 1. Awesome. So that is our blank new layer. If we look at the attributes table, so to look at the attributes, you right click on it, on the layer, and then go open attribute table. Now as you can see, it's kind of empty because we've got no objects, no features. We haven't created any polygons for any of the habitats. So all we've got is the title for that column that we've put in. As we add stuff in, that's going to start to fill out. We're going to start going to get interesting language. We're going to start to get different habitats coming in there as we go along. So that's all good. It's all set up and ready now. So let's zoom into where we want to be. Where's my little... I think we're about there. Perfect. Bang on. Nice. It's like I practiced. I didn't, honest. So here's Margam Park. We've got the manor up here, the car park down here. Let's start in the car park, why not? Wow, look at all the cars. Let's start with this little bit of car park here. So if you remember, this was J1.2, which is amenity grassland. So let's put that polygon in first. So to put in polygons, first we need to turn editing on for this new layer. So we click the pencil, little yellow pencil, and now we've got all these buttons lit up. So next thing, we need to actually add a new thingy. So to do that, add feature, which is the fourth button from the right. Sorry, from the left. Hello, left and right. So it's the one here. On this one, it looks like a little green blob with a yellow star next to it. That's because this is a polygon layer. If it was a line layer, it would it would look like a line with a little yellow star. If it was points, it would look like some points with a yellow star. See what they did there? Clever. So, add feature. Clicking. In our layer, well, in our main map window now, you can see that the cursor, that's this bit in the middle, that bit, no, that way, down there, is changed into like a little cross like that with a circle around it. So the center of that cross is going to be where the point, the vertex for each part of our polygon is going to be. So we're going to put vertex, vertices, little points all around the edge of the polygon to make that shape. You know this, you've done this before. So let's zoom in on our little area. That's a bit too zoomed in, I think. And let's put our first vertex. So let's start off here, click, 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 click. I'll stop doing the noise, sorry. And back up the other side. Looks good, got a good coverage. So once we're almost back to where we started, we right click, and this is where our little box comes up that says what do you want to put in for this polygon. So we've only created the one column in our table, which is phase 1 class, which is the only one that pops up in this little window. So in there, what's the phase 1 class? J1.2. Okay, and there is J1.2. So we could then go along, do this one here, this area here, all the other areas. But before we do that, we need to switch on snapping. Now, before I show you exactly how to switch it on, I'll show you what it does. Let's say we wanted to add another polygon right next to this one. So let's say we were doing the road. We obviously want the road to go right up against the edge of our amenity grassland on both sides. We've only got one side so far because we've only done one. So it wants to go right up next to it. So the polygon needs to share these vertices, these little points, all along the polygon. If we click there, let's try this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Let's just count that for our bit of road so far. Back that side. What's that, J 2.6 I think? Not sure. Might be hedge. I think it might be. Anyway, we're going to count it as J 2.6. If we zoom in on that, you can see that the edges aren't really aligned. Like here, that one's up there, that one's down there. What else? Further along, that one's even worse. So the points for the edge of each one, they don't meet. They should be exactly the same point, but they're not. So that's why we use snapping. So let's delete that one. Get rid of you. And zoom back. That's why we want snapping. So snapping will pull those 2 points together so they'll be exactly the same shape. Exactly the same border. So snapping, you switch on by going up here, settings, snapping options, and then you want to snap to, instead of off, which means nothing, switch it on. So you've got a couple of options here. You've got snap to vertex. Now if you remember vertices, vertex, are the little points along the edge of your polygon. Segment, which is the line between the vertices, or vertex and segment, which is vertices and the segment. You know, it's kind of obvious once you know what each is. So it's up to you which one you want. If you've got a polygon that starts maybe halfway along another polygon, then you'll want both. I think best just use both really. Now before we go into the tolerance, where it says layer selection, at the minute I've got it set to current layer. So this will only snap to things that are in this polygon layer, so other polygons. If we've got a point layer, for example, or a line layer, it's not going to snap to those unless we switch that to all visible layers, and then it'll just snap to whatever's nearby. All visible layers are a little bit more useful, especially when we come on to doing our target notes later, so stick it onto all visible layers for now. Right, we're on to tolerance now. If you want to keep it on map units, so this is meters, let's put 2 in there, and I will zoom in and show you what I mean. So we've set it up, it's now 2 meters tolerance. That means when I get within 2 meters of 2 meters of this point here, it's going to grab the cursor and pull it in. If you see what I mean, if I go over here, there's no special things. I can just create polygons and they would look like that. Cancel. If I go closer, so within 2 meters, where's 2 meters? About here? Yeah, here. if you notice, the cross here, the vertex, has gone purple, pink. That means if I create a polygon now, it's going to be right there where that is. So if I click, even if my cursor's up here, it's actually started right on the edge, on that point, so it's exactly the right place. Like that, see? Undo. So that's why we have snapping on. So if we go back out, click, and now you'll see it's going the purple pink cross. So we want the cross on there, next one, next one, next one, next one. We'll go back down the other side. Ooh, that's a very interesting job you've done there, Skip. And there we go. Now if we zoom in, no matter how far we zoom in, that edge is perfectly aligned. So it's perfectly, one point is exactly the same as the other point. Let's get rid of that again. So that, where's it gone? That tolerance there, 2 meters, is how close you have to be to the other one. This is, having it switched to map units has some advantages and has some disadvantages. If we are zoomed in like this, that 2 meters is a reasonable distance. You know, it's on the screen, it's about that sort of far. But as soon as we zoom out and start trying to create things, getting it close enough is going to start to get really fiddly, because 2 meters is now a tiny, tiny thing in the distance. So instead of having it set to map units, 2 meters, switch that over and switch it to pixels. So instead of using real sizes on the ground, so real distances in meters, it uses a distance on your screen. Pixels are the little squares, so your screen has a certain number of pixels in. If you zoom in and out on the map, that number of pixels on your screen isn't going to change. Your screen doesn't get bigger, it's just the map zooms in. So switching it to pixels is a better way of doing it. Pixels are really, really small, so if you have it set to 2 pixels, you're going to have a hard time. 15 is a good number for this. 15, 20, I'm going to stick to 20. So I'm going to put mine 20 pixels tolerance. Okay. Now if we look, 20 pixels, that's about, here, it's picking it up. So now it's going to share that edge there, there. Let's go around here. So these, even from this far zoom out, they're all exactly the right place. And now if we get closer, we still have to go reasonably close, so we can be quite accurate here on the road. So if you didn't want to go snap to the thing, we can still make stuff that's separate. So setting it to pixels is just a better way. If you're zooming in and out, it's a better way of setting your tolerance. So now we've got your tolerance, you've got your layer in, you can start off with your digitizing. So here we've got our first one, J1.2. Let's do our path here. I think it's 2. I can't remember if it's 2.6 or not. It's going to be 2.6 for this. Oh, what did I just do? What I did, I typed in 2.6, not J2.6. How do I change that? I will show you. Click on the eye up here. Usually this tells us some information about what we're clicking on. So if I click on this one here, it tells us it is J1.2. This one, just 2.2, because I screwed up. How do we change it? I will show you. When you've clicked on it and it shows up here, 2.2, go down here to Actions and click on this little symbol here, and it pops up the little window that we usually use to change stuff. Perfect. Now we can type in J and it's changed. Done. Sorted. Save. This button here is your friend. Always use it. Save. Good. Right, so that's how we add polygons, how we add our new polygon layer, how we get started with adding some extra polygons in. So off you go, do the rest of the map.